Welcome back, everyone. Last episode was all about animals and how they connect to us, how we connect to them, and how did we connect to other humans through our animals. Does anybody have an example or a way that they felt connected to their animals or connected to other animal lovers?
Yeah, I feel like I'll go first. I have a simple one. I went to the park with my friend, and she has a little dog that she
Oh,
always brings,
yeah.
and I just noticed, I think, more than normal that we were walking around, and it was a way that a lot of people connected to us, like, "Oh, what kind of breed do you have?" Or, like, just saying that her dog was really cute, and, like, someone, like, was yelling from a car, and, like, their dog was barking at us through a car, and was like, "Oh, what kind of dog do you have? It's really cute. Oh, sorry, my dog's barking at you." Like, it was a way that they could address that their dog was barking at
That's
us.
cute.
Yeah, so it's just simple, but I think that that happens a lot, especially
Yeah.
if people love dogs and love to ask about things like that, so
Yes.
It's that low
Awesome.
level connection point.
yeah.
It's like an
Yes.
easy way. Yeah.
Very easy.
I know. I think I noticed it happens all the time. Like my doggo is probably one of the easiest ways to get a conversation started, or
Yep.
asking someone if they have pets is like the
Hmm.
easiest way to get a conversation started. I went and visited a friend this weekend and she has three dogs and a cat. So the first dog she got when we were in college, and I would like babysit it when she would go out of town as a
Oh,
puppy. So that
yeah.
dog's like special to me too. So I got to see her dog, and we constantly are talking about the dogs like they are people and talking about their personality. Um, and then I learned that she has a popcorn party with her dogs because we made popcorn, and she's like, and they were like just staring at us. I'm like, what is going on? Like, why are they staring at us like this? And she's like, oh, like sometimes we like have like a popcorn party. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I like throw like three or four pieces. She's like, I just like throw some popcorn for them. So I throw three or four pieces, and the dogs are still staring at me. They're not eating the popcorn. And I'm like, okay, what is this popcorn party? Like, show me what you do. And she starts throwing popcorn everywhere, all over the room. And the dogs are going
So
crazy.
your popcorn party was not party enough
No,
for
it was
them.
not. I did not encapsulate the word party. And I said, you know what? To use party, it should be a party. And it was actually like so fun. And
That's
that will
cute.
be like a little core memory in my head. It was
Yeah.
really cute. And then I learned it. And she's like, I don't feed them human food besides popcorn. I'm like, uh-huh. But I know her secret about her popcorn party now,
Uh-huh.
which was really just like precious and cute
Yeah.
and such a fun moment to see too. And I wasn't throwing the party right too, right? Like they had their routines and their
Routine, yeah.
rituals and their habits, which was really cute too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was fun.
That is fun. That's awesome. Yeah. I got to on Saturday go to the Kentucky 3-day event, which is it's this big equestrian competition. So they do dressage, they do show jumping, and then they do cross country events. So I went with my horse trainer's mom. Yeah. So Kate is my horse trainer, the lady that I take lessons with, and then I went with her mom and one of her friends. So Sarah and Julie's who I went with this Saturday, and that was just a really cool event to go to. I learned so much, and I'm a huge horse girl at heart, so I got to just see these. I'm talking. I mean, these beasts are magnificent.
Yeah.
They're huge. They are in shape. They are so shiny and glisten, just because they're in great health, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah. And so, the horses competing at this level are like $300,000-$400,000 animals, and so they're just, and they get treated as such.
Yeah.
They're probably living a better life than I am. But it was really cool to get to connect with Sarah and Julie on that level because they are older and they've been in this world for a
Yeah.
long time. Like Julie used to compete. And then Sarah, I think, actually used to teach the Maryville College eventing team or something like that. I'm going to get that wrong, but equestrian team, whatever. So she used to be a college coach, which is cool, but it was just really neat. And I got to actually make a lot of connections with other people in the horse community because they would talk about so and so, and then they would be like, well, don't go there, go here, avoid this person. We really like this person. Just really cool kind of information gathering too, because they felt connected enough to share it with me.
Yeah.
So that was fun. I just felt like I learned so much about everyone that's kind of in the Knoxville equestrian community,
Yeah.
which is just really cool.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
A pretty strong community. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So that was a lot of fun. And of course, I got to look at horses. I was going to have fun either way.
Yes, you guys were gonna have something to talk about
Yes.
because the horses were there, so the
Exactly.
conversation was not
Yeah.
gonna be hard to make. Yeah.
What was, like, what were you most excited to watch with the horses? Like a certain race?
The cross country event is what we watched,
Yeah.
and it's where they're going over these obstacles on like a cross country course,
Yeah.
but it's just like huge jumps. I'm talking like one of these jumps was 7 foot wide, so
Oh,
the horses got like clear 7 feet.
That's insane.
Yeah, or they'll have, like, a jump that's, 6'5" in the air, and they're having to jump over that. It's just wild.
That
It's
is
wild
wild.
stuff. Yeah,
These animals are
yeah.
beasts.
They are,
Oh
and
my
they
gosh.
make it look so easy.
Yeah.
I mean, they float over them, and I'm sitting there flabbergasted.
That's why I'm terrified of them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or like
yeah,
mussels.
They're
yes,
powerful, powerful
Powerful.
yes,
beings.
yes, they are, so very cool. So, yeah.
I have another little story, and it's
Mhm.
about horses. When I lived with my parents-in-law for a little bit, I would walk like almost a mile down the road. At the end, there was like a person who had a field and a horse. And that's, like, such a cool way of connection because the neighbors would be like, "Oh, you can bring them, like, apples and carrots," and I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna do it," and one day I forgot the horse's name, I brought it, like, a carrot, and he was just a cute little,
Aw,
like, "Oh, this is
fun.
so precious." I just get
Yeah,
to, like and the horse wouldn't have come up to me and didn't until I had food, so
yeah.
that was kinda cool, and I'd never been, like, that close to a horse
Mhm.
until we went horseback riding, so I'm like,
Yeah.
"This is so cool."
Yes,
Yep.
that is a lot of fun. Yep. Yep. Alright, so this week's topic is mental health and connection. So, I think to kinda kick us off, I wanted to let you guys kind of explore we know mental health is extremely tied and intertangled with, I would say, relationships in general, right? It's probably something that comes up in most relationships. But I'm curious, like, something that I kind of jotted down in my thoughts or in my notes was, bad mental health is going to probably equal less connected and maybe feel less capable of being connected or making connection. So, if you are an extremely anxious person or you are struggling with depression or if you're even diagnosed with a personality disorder, right? Because all of those things have symptoms that make it hard to connect. But I wanted to kind of get your all's thoughts on that. That was just something that I think as a therapist I've seen, you know, the worse your mental health is, the less maybe capable you feel of making connections because you've got so many other fires you're trying to put out or trying to manage. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think my initial thought always with mental health is sometimes the thing that we need to do most is the hardest thing for us to do.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times when we are struggling with our mental health, like we need to reach out for support or we need that connection, or sometimes finding a point of connection is like a big turning point in our mental health and feeling better. And so I agree that like when we are struggling, connecting is maybe hard to do. We want to withdraw. We want to spend time alone. We want to invert into ourselves. And that's not the experience for everyone. But for some people, and sometimes like reaching out and connecting is the thing that we need to do the most, but it's the hardest thing to do in the moment. So I think that was like my initial thoughts when you were thinking about or when you were talking about that. That's what was running through my head.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I like that. And I think too, that the hardest thing to do is often or the most important things that we do to keep our mental health in a good place is probably some of the first things to go when our mental health gets bad. So, we don't reach out to the people to connect or we don't take care of ourselves or we don't, do the opposite action of what we actually
Yeah.
want. So, yeah.
I feel like when you're struggling with your mental health, your, like, perception on the world is affected. So, if it's, like, with anxiety or even with depression, I feel like it almost creates this, like, hole that you're stuck in where it's even hard to see your connections. Like, it's hard to get out of your own head. It's hard to get out of your own bed as well. And it shapes the way that you see the world and you see yourself. And I think, like, having that sense of self and having those parts that you connect with other humans goes away within it. Not just that it's, like, hard to turn to those people, but maybe you even see those relationships differently when you're struggling with
Mhm.
mental health.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. Yeah, and I think that kinda goes back to that, we feel less capable of making those connections maybe because we do lose our sense of self. Who are we, right? Depression is all there is or something like that. So, on the opposite side of that though, I put that good mental health equals more connected and maybe feeling more capable of connecting. So, and I think where my thoughts were going with that is when we are in a good place, when life does feel kind of balanced, right? We feel more confident. We have a stronger sense of identity. We have a stronger sense of who do we want to relate to? Who do we want to connect with, right? I want to play soccer with rec team. So I'm going to go do that because I feel confident that I can or I feel capable that I can. And so therefore I go and do it and then I make connections, I guess. What do you guys think?
Yeah. I mean, I think you're hitting the nail on the head too, like of how important it is to be connected to ourselves in order to connect with others. if I know
Yes.
who I am and how I
Yep.
wanna show up in relationship, and I am regulated, so that
Mhm.
doesn't mean that I'm just calm, but I'm connected to my body, to myself. I'm
Yep.
aware of how I'm presenting in this moment, how I'm showing up in this relationship, then we can be more connected in a
Yes.
healthy way that fills
Ooh,
our
I
cup.
like that.
Yeah,
Healthy.
yeah,
Yep.
in a healthy way that fills our cup, and when we're struggling with our mental health, we're not connected to ourselves, most likely for a various amount of reasons, but I don't feel good in my body. I don't feel good about myself. I don't feel good about maybe the place that I'm at in my life right now. Right. We could go a million avenues and ways with that, but I'm not connected to myself. So how can I be connected to others? I
Mhm.
think is probably the basis of that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes
Um,
sense.
and there's like a lot of beating yourself up. So I know that a lot of people isolate because they like feel guilty. Well, I'm not feeling very happy, and I don't want to put that burden on my friends when I think in relationships not always about like everyone being happy and like
Yeah.
true relationships and friendships they can hold that space for us, but I've
Mhm.
heard that that's a piece too. Like I'm so anxious and I can't get out of my head or I'm so depressed and I don't want to put that burden on them. And I wonder kinda where that comes from? Like, is that our culture and the way that we've talked about or not talked about mental health, or is that a part of mental health in itself?
The thinking that they can't hold space? I don't know, where would I'm trying to think, because if your mental health is in a good place, you can hold space for or you're gonna be more likely to be able to hold space for others in your relationships. I think maybe it has to do something with kind of that individualistic culture, like your stuff is your own and it's your responsibility and you don't need to be a burden to anyone else. I don't know. That's my best guess as far as, like, cultural or social influence. Let me what you got. You look like you're thinking.
I feel like I have a few avenues that I could
Mhm.
go with that. I think if I've never talked about mental health before or my emotions in general, I may just not have the ability to express to others. I might be so
Ooh,
disconnected from myself and so confused about what's going on within myself that how do I even begin to explain that to
right. Or
others?
do I even want to?
Yeah, do I even
Yeah.
wanna try? Do I, so I think that's an avenue my brain goes to. And then also I think the individualistic culture, I mean, we think about the phenomenon of self-care. It's our job to take care of ourselves. So I'm not and so I think that creates also this feeling of I'm not doing enough to take care of myself.
Yeah.
I should be doing more to take care when we also know that when you're struggling, one of the hardest things to do is to take care of yourself
Yeah.
and to
Yeah.
practice
Yep.
self-care. And that is, hear me, I am not invalidating self-care. Self-care is important. Self-care has a time and a place.
Mhm.
But I think also support has a time and a place, and connection has a time and a place. And so I also wonder if people feel like, isn't the response going to be, well, how are you taking care of yourself? Have you taken a bath? Have you practiced self care?
Right.
And so is there fear of like people are going to think I'm not doing enough? Is there fear of judgment? Maybe. Yes.
Ooh.
Maybe like,
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking, like, fear of judgment. If you haven't showered in a week and you go out in public, yeah, people probably will judge you.
yeah, yeah,
And so that is a real fear socially, and that, I think, again, kinda ties back into, do I feel capable of making connections? Or do I even want to? Do I wanna go out in
yeah.
public when you haven't showered for a week?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I think there need if you've never practiced vulnerability in that
Mhm.
relationship to then go and be vulnerable and say, "I'm struggling."
Yeah.
Just takes high levels of
Oh,
trust to do that and in that relationship. So,
Yeah.
can I like ask you guys when is the first time that you had a relationship where you felt like you could be? Because I know for me, I was a lot older, and by then, like it's a skill, like emotional intelligence or emotional expression is a skill. So, like, do you feel like it was when you're older that you started having relationships where you could be vulnerable, or young?
Well, my gut response is older just because I knew what vulnerability was and I knew how to conceptualize. But I mean, I had friends from a very young age that I could be vulnerable with. I just don't know that I knew
Yeah.
what that was.
Well,
Like I had
mm,
friends that I could say, "Yeah, I'm having a bad day," or I'm feeling sad today," or whatever. But as you get older, then you're able to really share that with people because, well, I know what I'm talking about now, or I have a better idea, I
like you
guess.
have self-awareness of it, and
Mhm.
then you can, yeah,
Yeah.
be more intentional with how you bring it into a
Yeah.
relationship.
yeah. My thought is, as a kid, I think gosh, I remember being at sleepovers and it was like you would share something bad and then the next person would wanna share something even worse, like the one-upping.
Oh,
And I
yes.
think what a somewhat universal experience, probably for most
Mhm.
people have experienced something like that.
Mhm.
And then I think the more I thought about that, the more I think that it didn't happen till I was older because people weren't able to hold those hard things for me. Like, now I'm an adult and my
Mhm.
friends are adults, and I can say to my friend, "Hey, like, do you have space to hear that, like,
Mhm.
to hold, like, I've got something going on, like, do you have space to talk today? If not, like, no worries.
Mhm.
I'll go put it
Mhm.
in another container or
Yeah.
talk to someone
Right.
else." But now my friends are emotionally intelligent enough to hold it
Yeah.
and to respond to it and
Mhm.
to support me
So they have good
through
mental
it.
health,
Yeah, yeah,
or
and
or at least management.
yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
or those or it's healthy, like, because 'cause we're adults,
Ooh,
like, it's
yes.
healthy for me to share those hard things with them. They
Mhm.
can handle them, they can
Yes.
because I feel like when you are little, like, maybe you do go tell your friend who loves you and cares about you, but, like, they have no because you have no clue how to respond to it. How is
Yeah.
another 10-year-old supposed to know how to respond to that?
Yeah.
And so maybe not that, like, there wasn't vulnerability, but I think there's a lot of experiences of, like, feeling ashamed because a friend
Mhm.
doesn't respond in the way that you thought they were going. I had a lot of incidences where I feel like I shared things and people didn't respond how I thought, or maybe they pulled away from me because it scared them, or
Scare
they
them.
didn't know what to say, or then they told their parent who told my parent, and then it got blown up out of
Yeah.
proportion, or my parent didn't respond in the way that I thought they were going to, or vice versa, whatever.
Yeah.
So I think I wonder how much too to have those conversations. Like, we do need that level of emotional intelligence that you were talking about.
Yeah.
Like, and then I think if it was a younger experience, like maybe like it would have had to been like a friend's parent or a coach or your own parent.
Mm.
That's my thought.
Yeah.
That's a real tangential
Mhm.
out there thought. But I'm
Mhm.
like, yeah, I don't know if at a young age anyone would have been able to respond to my mental health the way that they needed to, because they didn't have any emotional intelligence yet too. We were all
Well,
building that, our brains were developing.
yes, and
So,
developmentally, it's
yeah.
not really something that's expected or appropriate. Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought that up because I had friends that I could talk to, but if something was really wrong, I was going back to my parents or my same
Yeah.
adults,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
Mom, so and so today at school called me this or whatever, and I would tell my friend that, but we would gossip and talk about it, and
Yeah.
it was very appropriate. But then I would go in deeper
Yeah.
level processing. What about you?
Yeah. I feel like what you're talking like, there's, like, a level of boundaries to this too. We we work within mental health and we have those conversations a lot, and it's so normal. It's a lot easier to have those conversations, but I think I don't know, when you're speaking, there are boundaries too. Like, you would ask a friend, "Do you have space? Can you hold this? Do you have space for this?" But to be able to do that, there's, like, a level of that self-awareness, and also, I wonder how common it is for people that they reach out and they don't really know about those boundaries, and they're not aware if their friend can hold that or not, and then there are negative responses, and then they go back to, like, "Well, maybe I'm a bad person or there's something wrong with me," when it's actually not that at all. It's just we learn the containers that can hold what we need, or we find a therapist that can help us, or we maybe find friends who can support us in a different way.
I like how you guys are using the words like healthy, maybe versus unhealthy, versus good or bad, right? And so, making sure friends are in a healthy place mentally where they can hold it, right? Doesn't mean they have to be perfect because that's not obtainable, right? It's a
Yeah.
standard that's, yeah, what would you, well, perfection is
Yeah.
impossible, essentially, but just healthy. And like you said, Olivia, asking them, do you have the space to hold this today? And if not, all right, cool. I'll find another container or find another person to talk to, someone that is healthy enough that can hold it. And not that your friends are unhealthy, but they may be having a rough day and they may not have the space. And 24 hours can do a lot for the human brain and body.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
so
Yeah. And I just think a lot too, similar to if I was diagnosed with like a medical disorder, disease, whatever, like I might talk to my friends about the impact it has on me, or kind of give them the information so they know what I'm going through, right? Like, I was given this diagnosis, and this is why maybe I'm not going to be up as late as often, or not able
Mhm.
to go to our workout class every
Yeah.
Friday because I
Yeah.
sprained my ankle, right? Like,
Right.
but I'm not looking for them to solve it for me.
Yes.
And I think that's when it turns unhealthy really quickly within the mental health, like trying to connect with someone. I can let someone know, hey, I haven't called you as much. And I just want you to know I've been struggling, and that's why I haven't called you. Or maybe you've noticed I've missed our every Friday trivia night. And I just want to let you know, like, I've been really anxious and I've been having panic attacks lately. And I don't know but it's not to go to that friend and them solve that solution or fix
Yes.
that for us or take that away. Like, it's just more for them to be with. And I think that's like the connection piece. And I think we can do that as we get to be adults. Like, thank you so much for letting me know that. I hate to hear that you're going through that. And I
Yeah.
just want you to know I'm thinking of you. I
Right.
care about you and you got this. Like, and I know maybe your anxiety tells you that we hate you, but we love you and we're
Right.
here when you need us. Like,
Right.
things like that. But I think sometimes people try to connect through mental health and fix each other.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
in romantic relationships, a lot too, that
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah.
I think that's like the perfect example of what an emotional boundary is.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that can like go into if you have a friend who's struggling, like how you'd want to respond. Because I think a part of emotional boundaries is you don't have to fix it. You don't have to make it better. I think when people try to respond to people who are struggling with their mental health, a lot of it is like, oh, let's think of the positives or like, what are the good things in your life? Which is maybe a form of trying to fix it or make it better versus just like being with, like exactly like you said. You're telling me that it's been really hard to get out of bed. That's not, like, fixing or making better, that's just being with that person, like, showing you that, like, "I see you."
Yeah.
Yeah. Which
Yeah.
is, like, a really hard skill because I know even now I struggle with, like, trying to be the fixer and trying to take
Mhm.
things away from people.
Yeah. I'm glad you guys both said that because I do think there is a misconception of if someone tells me an issue, I need to come up with a solution.
Mhm.
And not just for, because I'm thinking even, and this isn't about you guys, but I'm thinking even in like the job atmosphere, what would you call it? Environment.
Workplace.
Yes,
Mhm.
workplace, right? If someone comes to my husband with an issue personally, is that then his job to fix it? And no, short answer, no. But then there's this misconception of, well, now I feel obligated or I feel bad or how do I resolve these feelings where and I think it's really important to understand how empathy can play into a relationship, right? We don't have to solve other people's issues or concerns. If we can help, great. But it's not necessarily our responsibility within that connection or within that relationship, I think. And because that becomes exhausting, especially when people are seeking others out for that.
Yeah.
Right? Because there are people that don't understand that. And when they tell you a problem, they expect you to fix it or they expect you to make them better or whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
Because that's why they're coming to you. That's why they want you to know.
Yeah, when we're struggling, we want people to take it away. It's like a very like natural human thing to be like, I feel like crap. I want to offload this on you and I
Yes.
want you to take it away. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, no one is going to be able to
Right.
take that away. And so that's my thought was going with that. But yeah, it's natural to like want to offload that and get it off of you. And then I think as friends in relationship or as partners in relationship, we can feel like responsible or like it's
Yep.
our responsibility to change or fix that when really it's probably just being with and meeting that person where they're at. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're not connecting through like mental trauma bonding. We're just,
Mhm.
we can be
Yeah.
with and we can be
Present.
vulnerable
Yep.
and allow people in to see
Yeah.
us, allow people
And
to
what do
see
you
us.
need in a relationship to be able to do that?
Yeah.
What gets you to a place in a relationship where you do feel that you can be vulnerable and not hinder a connection because of your mental health, but also let someone be aware and let them know, like, I'm not expecting you to fix this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how can it be empowering? Well, that's two different questions. I'll go back to my original. My original question is, what do you need in a relationship to be able to do that? And then,
I feel like I learned the word reciprocity from Braiding Sweetgrass, which is an amazing book. And I think that really resonated with me, where it's like I give a piece of myself, I'm vulnerable, and then they're able to be vulnerable back with me. Or like I show part of me that is really, that can get like angry or irritable or frustrated, and they also are vulnerable with me. Like they're showing me true parts of themselves. So we don't have to like hide behind a mask. That's like one of the most important parts in relationships to me is that we can show like all the sides and we can
mm-hmm.
still, unless the person there are boundaries, there are always boundaries, but I think that's something that is the most important to me is authenticity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think basic things too, like communication comes to my mind, right? Like safety within the relationship. I also think a lot about for me personally, like actually some of the best relationships I have, we've gone through hard things and we've gotten through them,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
we've had a conflict,
Mhm.
right? You and we were able to work through that. And I think that's what you were speaking to too, like taking that mask down, showing you an irritable part of myself, or maybe a part that's a bit sassier and says
Yeah.
something out of pocket, and to be able to have a rupture in that relationship and repair it.
Mm.
I think that creates a lot of ability for me to show bad parts because you accept me on my worst days and my best days.
Mhm.
You accept the worst part,
Yep.
the not so loving during maybe the messier parts of me versus
Mhm.
like the parts that I would like present and show to someone that I've never met. Putting on my best face, I guess. So I think, yeah, being able to have like a rupture in a relationship and there still be a repair and
Yeah.
yeah, so
Yep.
seeing maybe not all the
Mhm.
perfect parts too, I think makes it easier to be vulnerable and honest about. I haven't showered in a week and I really stink and I need you to know, like, I can't even freaking shower right now.
Yes.
And that person being like, okay, I hear you. And I know you got this and I know you can get through hard things and I've got you. Like, I'm here
Yep.
with you. And I'll still come over and say hello, even if you stink. Like, I don't
Right.
know, right?
Yeah.
Like, being able
Yeah.
to be with. Yeah. And not every, and I want to name too, like, not every relationship is that deep and that
Right.
rooted of a
Yeah.
relationship. Not all relationships can hold that. And not all
Yeah.
relationships should. We have all different types of connections. And I do think there's special connections that can see and hold those parts, but not every connection will. And that's
Mhm.
okay. That's natural. That's
Yeah.
normal.
I think something that my mind went to is if I'm gonna be sharing, deeper level thoughts, those deeper level moments with someone, you were talking about authenticity and reciprocity. And then, Olivia, you were talking about creating safety within that relationship. And my mind went to commitment, right?
Mm,
Those things plus commitment. If
yeah.
someone is committed to me, I know that they're going to be able to stick it out. And I'm not saying commitment to take advantage of that person, right?
No,
Like,
no.
oh, I know this person isn't going to leave me when I'm in these deep, dark times, but it's more so this person is committed to our friendship or our relationship, even if I'm depressed or even if I'm anxious, and they're going to be there while I work through this stuff.
Mhm.
And so that's something that I think about too. Like, I want someone who's committed if I'm going to share that part of me
Mhm.
with you.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's willing to be alongside me.
Hmm.
Because you're just alongside me for the
Yep. You're
journey.
not fixing me.
You're
You're
not
not,
fixing
yep.
me. You're not my punch. You're not taking
Hmm.
this on as your own. You're just alongside me
Yeah. You're just
for
there. Yep.
the messy parts. You're letting me figure it out and maybe giving me grace on tough days too. But yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you can have that person. I love this analogy of like a cup and the relationships are pouring into your cup. But if your cup has a hole in it because you haven't done the work within yourself, you could
Mm.
have that person that checks all these
Yes.
boxes and is so emotionally available, and then they pour into you and it just falls out because maybe I don't believe that I deserve that, or I feel like I'm not a good person. There's some distortion, some belief you have. So I really love that analogy. It just really
Yeah.
resonated with me. It
Yeah.
made me think, okay, I can have all these great people, but
Pour
I have
into
to
me.
pour into myself. Like, you can't expect to have everyone around you do
Yeah.
that for you.
Well, you have to fix your cup first
Mhm.
so that when people do pour into you, it's not a waste
Yeah.
or it's not this constant, my cup is never filled because there's still holes within your cup that you have to heal and fix. Yeah, I love that. That's a great analogy. So I think where we talked a lot about kind of positive relationships in the sense of what attributes they have that can help us feel connected. But Olivia, you were talking earlier a little bit about how positive, or I'm sorry, how contagious are positive relationships. So, and I like that word,
Yeah.
contagious. So, first of all, what is a positive relationship? Can you define that for me? Like when you say positive, what are you thinking?
Courtney, oh my gosh.
Yes, because
A
we've talked about
positive
healthy and unhealthy.
Yeah. I guess a positive relationship. I'm not a definition logic girl. I'm like a feels girl. But I think when I think of positive, uplifting relationships in my life, I think of like I get off the phone and my brain is just thinking of all the things I'm grateful for, of the
Mhm.
positive moments, or I just feel lighter, or it just puts a smile on my face, or gives me energy. That's a big one. Like positive relationships, I think, energize us. And we know there's so much research and evidence that practicing gratitude, it's
Yeah.
such a small thing, but like thinking about the things around you that are positive that you can be grateful for. You can find
Yeah.
something good even in the crap. Like you
Yes.
really
Yeah.
can. And so being around others who look for the positives. I also think of positive relationships though that like they're also probably aligned with your values, right?
Mhm.
Like people who are motivated, if you're motivated, you're going to want to be around other humans who
Yeah.
are
Yep.
motivated. That is a positive relationship. It's
Right. Okay.
affirming and
Yep.
aligning with your values. Or I want to be a wellness person. Well, then you probably want relationships where that person values. That's a
Mhm.
positive
Yep.
relationship. It's fueling positive parts of yourself, or I value gratitude. Someone who expresses gratitude is
Yes.
going to be a positive relationship for me. It's going to energize me to do those things,
Yes.
especially when we're feeling unmotivated and we are struggling with our mental health. It can get easy. It can be easy to be caught in a loop. And so shifting with relationships that are positive and energizing can help break that loop, can be
Yeah.
supportive in that. That was a long-winded answer.
No,
That's
I
my
love it though.
thoughts.
Yeah.
That's my thoughts on
Yeah.
that. Positive
Yeah.
relationship. How would you guys define a positive relationship?
I think you did beautifully. I
Yeah.
agree. I think like mental health wants to keep you in the bubble. Like
Mhm.
it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. It feeds itself. It's fed on itself. So I feel like if you are struggling with depression and then all of your social media is like all the tragedies of the world and all of your friends are maybe more negative,
Yeah.
keep yourself and stay in that bubble. And it almost feels wrong sometimes to shift that perspective over to like, but what are those things that bring me joy and bring me
Mhm.
energy in this life? Because it's not, things aren't black and white. It would be convenient if things were black and white, but most things are in the gray. So I feel like that's another piece. It helps bring us back. It doesn't mean to be full of gratitude that you are ignoring all of the negative and
Yeah.
bad, horrible things of the world, but like we need both because that is reality. Like that is real versus just living in one or the other. Because you
Yeah.
can be like a very toxic positivity person where you're
Yes. I'm glad you
Yes.
only,
named
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
which I have like totally fell into. And I think it's can be just as detrimental
Yeah.
because then you're minimizing those things that humans struggle with and yourself struggle with.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
I have one friend who every time I talk to her, I just immediately start thinking about something about our energies are, and Courtney's gonna roll her eyes at me and Amanda's gonna love everything I'm about to say, but our energies are like weirdly aligned. And I swear she calls me when I like need to hear from her and vice
So
versa.
yeah.
And we are like those friends who don't talk very often, really at all, but I think we talk about the hard things and yet like are both able to be like, and that's growth. And wow,
yeah.
how cool that like you're able to respond differently to this. Like we are just both I think we have very positive actually views on each other. And so
Yeah.
when the friend comes with the hard stuff, we can sit in it with them and just be like, dude, I'm so proud of you for
Yep.
sitting in how hard this is.
Yeah.
Which is still being positive, like,
Yes.
right? Like you're like naming
Yes.
the value of what
But
your
it's
friend's
appropriate
doing.
positivity too.
Yes, yes. And
Yes.
it's like,
Yep.
and that sucks. And it's okay that it sucks. And
Yeah.
like, but I always walk away from those conversations like feeling positive. Even if it's just like I feel positive that I have that support or that
Yes.
relationship. And
Yeah.
it's like such a relationship that's not tied to any expectations other than like the connection that
Yeah.
we have. Like
Yes.
truly, that is the only expectation of that relationship is that we are always connected. And we like
Yeah.
her and I both truly believe we are always connected to each other, even if we go 6 months without talking.
So
Yeah.
like
And it's
what a
just
special
it
relationship.
is. It's
It's
a
Wow.
really
healing.
cool one. It is.
So
Yeah.
healing.
And it's an odd one because actually her and I have really not hung out that much. We lived in Knoxville at the same time and then both kind of moved. And like I've
Mhm.
always been really like but we just really believe we're connected and we love each other and we
Yeah.
both feel that. And
Yeah.
it's cool. Like, and it's a very simple actually relationship. It's not very complex, which is
Yes.
cool,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's a positive relationship. Yeah.
What a great example of what that could feel like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's not just talking about the good things. Like that is
No.
beautiful.
Mm-mm.
Aw.
It was funny because your definition of positive made me do some self-reflecting, and I'm like, I don't know that I do that. I don't know that I make people feel energized, like, in how, because I'm very much a person that also, like, misery loves company.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So when I get talking with someone and they're miserable, I'm like, "Oh, yeah, let me join you,"
Mhm.
but I appreciate those moments as much as I do, like you said, like,
Yes.
"Hey, I am proud of you," or, "Hey, you are killing it, and it is hard, and it sucks." I think for me, I do a lot of kind of flipping back and forth.
Yeah.
Like, "All right, today I'm gonna sit in the misery and be miserable and be a
Mhm.
sourpuss, and then tomorrow, if my day's good," like, I don't know, just, I think about the differences in myself too. I was doing some self-reflecting. I'm like, do I energize people when I talk to them? I don't know. I feel like sometimes I get them more wound up,
Yeah.
which is probably not the best. But yeah, that's a great thing and I've got a best friend that I grew up with. Well, we met in literally pre-K and went all the way through high school together. And she is one of those people where I can message her 6 months and it's like we were picking up from day one. And it just it feels good to have that, and it feels good to have someone to share. Like, I get Snapchat memories that are so cringe because they're from, like,
Yeah.
middle school,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
peak cringe, you know? And I get to share that with her. I'm like, "Look at what popped up on my memories the other day." And it's, it's immediately we're reminiscing, and it is nice to have those positive relationships. And I think that's something else. Again, it's not a perfect relationship, but it's just positive,
Mm,
you know? It's supportive. It's
supportive is a good word.
yeah.
And I love the idea too of like I think some of the most positive relationships don't have expectations. Not that there's not like non negotiables or boundaries within a relationship too. It's not like you can do whatever to me and I still care about you. No, that's
Yeah.
not what I'm saying. But I think sometimes we put like really big expectations on relationships. And I think that's really hard because life is hard. And so those expectations need to be flexible and they need to change when someone's struggling or has
Yeah.
a big life event.
Yes.
And I think that's what makes those really positive relationships unique is that the expectations are like clear and they're manageable and they're flexible and they're communicated.
Yeah. Yeah. So what about the contagious piece about that? How are they contagious? What does that look like?
Kinda like what Olivia was saying, like, you leave and then the energy is still there.
Mm.
That person, that feeling that you had with them is still there and it lingers with you. I think just, like, having a really hard conversation with someone can linger with you for days. I think it's very similar. Yeah. I think it's, like, simple. I just wanna give a simple answer because I think
Yeah.
I love the nervous system and all of our nervous systems are tied together. So
Mhm.
even if it's not something you talked about, just that, like, feeling that they give you just by
Yeah.
being with
Yeah.
them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It
Mm.
just triggers, just like misery loves company. I think positivity
Mhm.
is gonna love it too. If someone says something positive, then I probably can think of something positive too, or be like, "You're right. Like, actually, this did happen though, and I feel good about that." Or someone's able to name like things that they're grateful for, and I'm like, "Yeah, that's a great point. I'm grateful for that too."
Yeah.
And then we express that gratitude to the next person, and yada yada yada. Yeah, and I do think there's a time and place to throw your pity party and to have your friends show up and
Yes.
sip their tea and take the tea in and have a pity party and have a moment too. It's just when those relationships are all negativity, like, all
Mhm.
we talk about is the negative things, then that relationship can become all-consuming, and really, you can be stuck in that negative loop,
Yep.
so
Yeah. And just yeah, like you were saying, that makes a lot of sense to me because we want to be able to do both, right? Throw the pity parties, but then
yeah.
also still feel grateful, still build gratitude. I liked what you said. You were talking about gosh, now it's leaving me. I think kind of what you're dancing around, I always think of co-rumination. Okay. When we get caught in that negative loop, is what you were saying,
Yeah.
right? We get caught in that negative loop, and then that's all we talk about. It is. You get very negative very quickly. And if all of your relationships have that, it is going to be very detrimental. But there's also research that shows how positive co rumination can be
Ye
because you do have someone to vent to and to, connect with and be like, yeah, that teacher's terrible. She hates me or I hate her. And you've got other kids to like, yeah, we feel the same way. Right. So that co rumination also comes from having a positive bond. And you can co ruminate in the positive, you can ruminate in the negative. Well, you said pity versus gratitude, and you can do both. Right. But if you do get caught in those cycles, in those loops, it can be really tough.
I think it's, like, just tied back to self-reflect or, like, as a group, are we trying to process something? So I feel like, oh, like, some topics that people might roommate over, it might be politics or religion or, like, the state of the world.
Mhm.
It's like, do I have control over that? Because I can roommate all day and I can talk about, but how much control do I really have over this versus, like, when we're connecting over, like, this teacher really sucks and she
Yeah.
gives us 5,000,000 hours of homework
Right.
and she's mean to us and she doesn't let us talk during class. Like,
Yes.
I think that that's an interesting piece because I know that there are
Mhm.
groups that, like, gather and they're like, "We talk about politics and we ruminate on the horrible tragedies of this world." And I think being in those spaces where, like, we may have less control would be
probably just getting at, like, we need balance within our
Yes, that's
relationships.
true.
Yep,
Yep.
yep, and I need someone to be able to sit in the hard stuff with me for me to ever also have them encourage me to look at the positive too,
Oh,
because
yeah.
I think I'd be like,
Yeah.
"What the no, you won't even, like,
Yes.
hear that because then it does feel minimizing, but
It
if you're
does,
able to, like,
yes.
sit in the
Yep.
hard stuff with me
Yeah.
and be in it and listen
Yes.
to it and kinda, like, co-ruminate in it,
Yep.
then when the next time I bring it up and you're like, "But hey, like, you've been doing better this week," or "I
Yeah.
saw you show up in a different way with that," or like,
Yep.
then I'm like, you hear me, you still see
Yes.
me, so I can
Mhm.
hear the positives too.
Yep.
And I can give space to both of them. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So,
And I think that's harder when your mental health is not in a good spot.
yes, that is true too.
Right. And so, I think there's definitely, and just to kind of name that, connections can be extremely detrimental to our mental health if they are toxic, if they are not safe, if they
Mhm.
are negative in the sense of, where they want us to sit and stew. Right. So, yeah, I just think that connections can be really beneficial, really positive on mental health, and they can be really negative too. So, also thinking about reflecting on what kind of relationships do you have with people? Are they positive or are they negative? Are they hurting your mental health or are they helping it?
Yeah.
Or, is it a little bit of both?
Like reminds me of our social media episode when we were talking about like groups that you find on the internet that can
Yes.
actually really support
Yes.
someone's mental health struggles, like encouraging them to do maybe unhealthy
Yeah.
habits
Yeah,
and like
absolutely.
keeping them in that world or in that perception of the world, and
Yes.
that can be so dangerous.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. I think being with people who align with the things that you value
Mhm.
is gonna be supportive when our mental health circles down the drain, as
Yeah.
it does, as it does.
Yes.
We all
As it
struggle, we
does.
all go
Yeah.
through hard things, and if we are with people who value it partying and drinking and we're struggling with our mental health and that's who we're around, that's probably only gonna make it worse.
Yes.
You know? Versus, like, I really value people who are kind and open-minded, and so when I come to them and tell them I'm struggling, they're gonna be able to be kind and open-minded and listen to me, and
Mhm.
those are because that's what they value.
Absolutely. So I kind of had a challenge in mind, but I want to ask you guys, did you guys have one?
Maybe just like how are your relationships impacting your mental health? Like
Yeah.
pick a relationship and like really think about how is this healthy or unhealthy for me? Or there's like
Mhm.
parts of it because humans are complicated. Maybe this part of this relationship when we talk about this subject or we participate in this activity, is this healthy for us to be doing?
Yeah.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Yeah, my thought was either express some gratitude this week within a relationship,
Yes.
within a connection, like, maybe you're just expressing gratitude for that relationship or connection.
My thoughts were kind of like both of yours. I was thinking, one, identifying a positive relationship, right? So you're talking about, how are your relationships impacting your mental health? And then two, with kind of the action stuff, like what you were talking about, Olivia, is not latching on to, but figuring out which positive relationship you want to be intentional and do something with it this
Mhm.
week. So, showing gratitude, that's a fantastic example of
Yeah,
that.
okay.
And so I love that if that's kind of the challenge that we want to go with,
Yeah.
like showing gratitude in that positive relationship. So maybe a little bit
Like that.
two-parter, one mental, one actionable, right? So the mental side is think about your relationships. How are they impacting your mental health, positive or
Mhm.
negative? And then the action step is, find a positive relationship and show gratitude in that. Yeah.
That's great.
Sound good?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love it. I'm good with that.
And maybe you can even track how that gratitude makes your mental health.
Ooh, like
Makes you
how it
how you feel,
impacts us.
yeah, how it
How you feel
impacts you.
after.
Yeah, feel after. But yeah. All right, guys, thank you for tuning in. We hope to hear about how you guys did our weekly challenge. I'm excited because I think I've already thought about like three different
Yeah.
relationships that I want to, reach out or show gratitude in or something like
I'm
that. So,
excited.
but yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you next week.
Stay connected.
Bye, guys.
As always, please remember you are someone's human connection and you are never alone. If you're experiencing a mental health crisis or emergency, please call 988 911 or a crisis response unit in your area. Disclaimer: the thoughts, opinions, and topics discussed in this podcast are not intended for mental health treatment, service, or diagnostic purposes. All opinions expressed are solely those of the host, co-host, and guests. Resources mentioned can be found in the written show notes. Thanks again for tuning in to the Human Reconnect podcast.